This is a demo of the coffee filter art project for FAME for the Mary Cassatt impressionism FAME lesson for the young. This is if you're doing coffee filters for the kids. So this is a short art project. It can get a little bit messy, and I've tried it a few different ways. And so I think that this is probably the easiest and cleanest way to do it. So this is just butcher paper, and there is obviously white craft paper. For Niles, it's in the copy room. For Parkmont, it's in the staff room, copy room. So I would get a piece of paper for each child that's big enough that the coffee filter fits on it with the paper folded in half. It doesn't need to be huge, but the craft paper is enough. It's thick enough. You don't need newspaper. And I tried it with the newspaper, and the newsprint actually caused some problems. So the coffee filter, let me grab that. You'll take the coffee filter. The kids will each have a coffee filter, and you can spray it on. So you have to use water, just plain water spray bottle, and I'll have a few of those in the cart. You don't want, especially in a younger class, you don't want people to be doing them all at the same time. You'd almost want to go around the room because it's such a short project that you just kind of take turns and have them table by table doing them, unless you have a bunch of volunteers that are willing to do it. So you're going to spray it until the coffee filter is all the way wet and flat. And so I guess you wouldn't necessarily have to have it completely, you wouldn't have to spray it on the paper. So sorry, this is not the best way to do this. So it's pretty wet, and if the flatter it is, the better. But you've got little kids doing this, so it's not going to be the easiest thing. So when it's nice and wet, then the whole goal of this, I have this food coloring, and if I use the small dropper bottles, you'll go through too many of them. So I have the big bottles of them here. The trick about these is I have these Dixie cups, and each table then you would give the table 3 Dixie cups. So just so so each kid doesn't go through 3 Dixie cups. And so you really don't put much in at all. The red food coloring is really strong. The blue is the strongest. The yellow is pretty weak. So the blue, you have to be careful. I actually water it down until it's thin enough. Otherwise, it almost looks black. And the red, I've watered down a little bit. So when you put it on, it's really simple. You just drip a little just in the corner, and it starts bleeding out, literally. And then you'll put the blue, and it starts doing the same thing. And so the folds in the coffee filter kind of make it look cool. And you might have to put a little bit extra on so that it does get into the other colors. And then you put on the yellow. And so you are using like a few drops each time, but that's the whole thing, is that they should look different, and you want them to bleed in so that you've got green coming in here. The yellow is mixing into the red, and you've got some orange. There will be areas where they all 3 mix and it ends up looking kind of black. But you do want to make sure that the blue is watered down enough that eventually that blue is going to fan out and look more like purple when it hits the red. But it looks pretty cool. And then they can take that outside and let them dry, or you can actually do it outside. And then when those are all dry, you can let the teacher know as an option, since you won't be able to do this. They won't be dry by the end of the class period. But when they're all done, they can, if you have a template of a circle that's just slightly smaller than this, they can frame them with 12 by 18 paper folded over. You cut the circle out that's just a little bit smaller, and you mat them, and they end up hanging in the window, and they look really cool. And because it's near Halloween, you can make a pumpkin or a cat or out of the mat, and it could be really cool. And then they could hang in their windows, so they could punch a hole and hang them on a string or something. Anyway, so that's that project. It's a very simple project. It's hard to have a whole bunch of little kids doing it at the exact same time. So you would almost want to have table by table go around the room and do it, and then just ooh and ah over each one. Then that would be about 10 or 15 minutes. There you go.